On Mind Over Matter today, we are joined by Jaclyn Francis, creator of the Worthiness Codes Ascension Blueprint, with a 21-point soul level system rooted in the chakra pathways. Jaclyn helps people heal shadows, activate higher aspects of themselves, and finally live from a place of true worthiness. She brings a blend of spiritual wisdom and raw, relatable honesty that invites us all to rise. Welcome to the show, Jaclyn. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Anya. That was such a beautiful introduction. It's lovely to be here today.
Mhm. So, Jacqueline, worthiness is a word we all use, but what does it really mean to awaken it from the inside out?
Yeah, so self worth is something that you all have. It's innate within every single person, but just given upbringing and trauma and societal norms, we tend to strip away from that self worth. So, because it's part of who you are, it's all about remembering, rediscovering, and healing those parts of you that are limiting you or blocking you from really embodying your ultimate level of self worth.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what's the most common shadow that blocks people from feeling worthy?
I mean, there are so many. So the way that I help guide people back into their worth is through this 21-point blueprint that I've created. And within that blueprint, there are 7 shadows. But I would say that those shadows are most heavily tied to either fear or shame or guilt.
Right. And that hits home, honestly. So many of us carry invisible barriers without even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly. The shadows that we all have, they're parts of who we are. So the point is to not release the shadows, to not ignore the shadows. The most important part is to look at the shadows, to look at those parts of you that may be difficult to confront, those parts that are rooted in your wounding and your trauma, and really understanding why they're there and holding compassion and self love for those parts of you so you can integrate them. And then once they're integrated, you choose differently and you choose those higher aspects of self that really allow you to step more and more into your worthiness.
Yeah. And your ascension blueprint works through the chakra system. How do
Yeah.
the chakras reveal where someone is stuck in the shadow or ready for activation?
Yeah, so I mean, every energy works differently for everyone. And chakras, though there's only 7 of them, there are so many layers within each chakra, just depending on your soul, kind of what you went through in life. But the way that you can start really tapping into your own chakra system and working with your energy is by becoming aware within your life currently where you feel blocked. Say, as an example, you want to start dating or getting into a relationship with someone, but you feel as though you may be not confident enough to start dating. You can feel that energy when you're on a date. Try to feel where it is in your body. Confidence is rooted in the solar plexus chakra, which is the space on your stomach, the middle chakra. And within that space, if you feel blocked, you can then go home and kind of dive into it and work with the energy, what was coming up on the date, how were you feeling, and work through those layers to see, is it your confidence that is blocked? What is blocking your confidence? Did you have anxiety? All of those energies are tied to the solar plexus chakra. So you can peel back the layers and work with the energy that way.
Yeah, that's great. And could you share an example of how a single chakra shift transforms someone's sense of self?
Yeah. So looking at the Worthiness Codes Ascension Blueprint, I can give the example of one of the passages. And the passage is focused on the worthiness code of surrender. So this passage is rooted within the root chakra. So the shadow side, the shadow energy of surrender is control. And the reason why we all tend to control is because we don't feel safe, right? If we all felt safe within life, we were able to trust ourselves, trust the universe, then we would just be able to surrender when difficult things were thrown at us. If we didn't know how to make a decision, we can kind of just surrender and go with the flow and take aligned action instead of trying to control a narrative. So that energy is all rooted within the root chakra. So the really important part about healing and understanding the layers within the root chakra, the shadow layers and the light layers, is really being able to ground. So of course, again, there's so many layers, but grounding can be just as simple as going out in nature and putting your feet in the sand or in the dirt or taking a walk in the woods. And when you can feel more grounded, you become more centered in your body and you're able to really anchor into the present and not worry about the past or the future.
Oh, yeah. And that really shows the body as both, like a map and a mirror of our inner journey.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly, yeah. The body the body knows way before the mind does, so this is why it's so important to really understand your body and especially looking at it in terms of energy and being able to relate it to the chakra because it can tell you a story, right? It can tell you kind of what's going on at a deeper layer because nothing is what it seems like at the surface anyway. So when you can really tune into your body and to your energy and understand the chakra system and these layers that are, within this tool essentially to help bring you back into your center, back home into your worthiness, you can really start navigating yourself in life in a whole different way.
Yeah, 100%. And shadow work can feel intimidating. How do you guide people to face their shadows without being overwhelmed?
Yeah, shadow work can be really difficult depending on what it is that you're looking at. But the most beautiful thing about shadow work is that it unlocks the reason as to why you are experiencing blocks, experiencing certain patterns, tending to go through the same cycles in life. So it really gives you your power back to not live life from that place of your shadows, from that place of your wounding. So I think if you can understand that, it makes you feel empowered. It allows you to feel empowered to really look at those parts of you. And the easiest way to do it, I feel, is through journal prompts. If you have journal prompts or you want to just journal yourself, I offer journal prompts to help guide people through this framework on my website. But if you were just to do it on your own, you can think of something, a narrative or a situation in your life that you feel blocked. Or if you're experiencing a certain pattern, maybe it's you feel like you're dating the same type of partner, or maybe you feel like for some reason money isn't flowing into your life. It's sitting down, it's journaling, and it's going backwards. So, understanding what's happening in your life and working backwards to find the root, to understand why you're blocked, what your patterns are, what your behaviors tend to be, what your emotions and energy feel like, and ultimately your shadow, your wounding is going to be rooted from childhood. That's usually always what it's rooted in is an experience that you have experienced from childhood where the root to all of this stems from.
Yeah, makes sense. And how does moving through those shadows actually unlock higher aspects of self?
I think the best way for you all to understand this is that if you think of a shadow, you think of your wounding as a darker, dense energy, right? You think of it as stagnant energy, this big block that's within you. It is ultimately not allowing you to access what's on the other side of it. So if you can think of something within duality, right? So we can go back to the example that I was giving before, a higher aspect of the highest a higher aspect of control, or the opposite energy of control, is surrender. So when you're working within that dense energy, that shadow energy of control, it's really allowing to understand that when you can work through those layers, and again, it's not always about releasing the shadow, but it's understanding why that block, why that dense energy, why that shadow is there. And when you can become aware of that and choose differently, you can then shift into the higher aspect energy of letting go, ultimately moving into surrender to then function from that place. So, really simple, it's choosing to break through the dense energy where you're functioning from, which is your shadow, which in this case is control, to shift into a lighter, freer, flowier, higher vibrational energy of letting go, and then ultimately shifting into the highest aspect of that, which is surrender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that turns fear into fuel. Such a powerful reframe.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Mhm. And you often talk about feminine confidence and vulnerability. Why do you see vulnerability as such a key to empowerment?
What can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you often talk about feminine confidence and vulnerability. Why do you see vulnerability as such a key to empowerment?
Yeah, I mean, feminine confidence, we all have confidence, right? It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, it's just energy at the end of the day. But to really hold confidence is, again, it's embodied and it comes from your truth, from your soul. So often do we see within the noise of social media and some of, the teachings and the inspiration that's out there, it's when people talk about confidence, they talk about it in a way that's so rooted from the ego. And as someone who, I always considered myself confident, but I realized, going on this journey, that my confidence wasn't tied to my core truth. It wasn't tied to my self-worth. Because when I really understood what my self-worth is and how my level of self-worth that I held at the time, I realized that it was an illusion. It was fake. I had to really heal deep layers within myself to understand that, okay, this confidence is rooted in the ego. I'm not confident in who I innately am. So once I peeled back those layers and healed everything that was blocking my innate divine worthiness, I was then able to shift into confidence that's authentic to who I am on a soul level. So your worthiness is directly tied to your confidence, because you're never going to feel confident in your authentic self from a soul level if your self-worth is blocked, if you're not comfortable and have unconditional love for yourself, your confidence is going to be a mask that's heavily rooted in the ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And how can men too benefit from embracing this balance of strength and softness?
Yeah, I love this question because they have it rough because they've, been told their whole lives that emotions are for girls, that they can't cry and they have to be strong. And that couldn't be the more opposite, because I really feel as strength comes from vulnerability. The more vulnerable you are and capable of being, that's tied to your emotional intelligence, your emotional capacity and depth. So for men, it's all about getting into your heart. When you can really allow yourself to connect to your heart space and have it all starts with yourself, right? So having unconditional love for yourself, your heart will then be able to open, and you can still be a very strong masculine man who's able to provide and protect and do all the masculine things that women want. But when you're in your heart, that is your power, because your strength just expands from there, because your depth to hold space for women, to see women in a different way, the way that we want to be seen, and to be able to go within to heal yourself, it all comes from your heart. So it will ultimately just make you stronger, in my opinion.
I love that. That's a beautiful reminder that worthiness isn't gendered, it's human.
Yeah, exactly. And for men too, the work I do is more so focused for the feminine, but that's a perfect reminder, Anya, because men are worthy, and more so men are masked. Their worthiness is masked. Their self-worth is masked from the ego because of their upbringing. So it's all the same thing. We're all on the same journey of getting back into your heart, into your center, understanding your truth, understanding your most authentic self, and loving every single part of you, and knowing that you are free. You are able to be exactly who you are, without judgment, without fear, and to know that life is always supporting you as long as you fully hold faith in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for someone listening who feels unworthy right now, what's the very first step they can take to begin awakening worthiness?
Yeah, for anyone who's going through a difficult season of life, or for anyone who's just struggled with, self-worth for the majority of their lives, the first thing that I want you to know is that no matter what you've gone through, no matter how difficult, no matter what you feel when you look at yourself in the mirror, or how you feel about where you're at in life right now, I want you to know that you literally have the power within you to change yourself and change your life. And though you may not understand that you are worthy, you may think that you're not worth anything in life. And that couldn't be further from the truth. But I want you to start with loving yourself, because when you can start loving yourself, and this can just be the smallest, simplest acts of self love, when you wake up in the morning, giving yourself a hug every morning and saying, I love you, looking at yourself in the mirror and starting to talk out loud about the parts of you that you really love. And eventually looking at those shadow parts, the parts of you that you don't really love, and sending love and compassion and grace to those parts too, because the more that you love yourself, simultaneously, you will begin to feel more worthy about yourself and the things that you want in life.
Yeah, 100%. And how can they keep trusting the process when doubt returns?
Yeah, doubt is is a big part of the process. It's one of the shadows, which I call a pedestal in the blueprint, and it's directly tied to the passage of faith. So when doubt comes up within your life, it's those, again, it's those shadow parts of you. It's those parts of you that you're so used to functioning from. Those parts of you that are saying, "No, you're not worthy of, starting your business, or you're not worthy of dating this person, or you're not worthy of this amount of money." The doubt is rooted in fear. And I want you to start looking at fear, at doubt, at limitations as narratives that are not true. And though they are very much true in the experience, they're very real, they're very much there. If you can just shift the narrative to understand, okay, if doubt is creeping up, let's peel back the layers. Let's understand why doubt is there. Because there's another side to that doubt, right? There's a reason as to why I'm feeling it, whether it's tied again to dating someone or to starting your own business. If you feel really pulled and really called to doing something, it's for a reason. So it's understanding why that doubt is coming up. And the doubt might be right. if you meet a partner and part of you is like, I like him, but I'm not sure, and you're going back and forth, at the end of the day, the doubt could be your intuition guiding you. So it's all a journey, but when the doubt comes up, know that there's a reason for it. And again, this is all in the blueprint that I teach because there's so many layers to it. But to just simply put it when doubt comes up, sit with it. That's all I can say. Sit with the emotions, sit with the narrative, peel back the layers and see why the doubt is coming up because there's always a root to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's such a gentle but profound invitation, beginning right where you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what a radiant conversation when Jaclyn Francis, reminding us that worthiness isn't something we earn, it's something we remember. Through shadow healing, chakra alignment, and activating our higher aspects, we can ascend into a truer, freer version of ourselves. Tonight, let this be your call. You are worthy, always have been, and it's time to live like it.
Thank you, Anya. I loved the ending there. That was so beautifully put. And yeah, like I
Thank you
said in the
so
beginning, self-worth is part of you. So it's just remembering and going on the journey to allow it to awaken.
much. Yeah, absolutely.